like we were just talking about, we've got Kyle Berkshire, who I had on the podcast. Martin Borgmeyer was on here. Ryan Gregnall. Hopefully Justin James will be on soon. And you, Seb. So you're all members of the elite, super elite 230 miles an hour club. So congrats and thanks for being on.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Thanks for having me as well. Really excited to, get a chat with you.
That's a pretty special club to be a part of for being so new to the sport. How does that feel?
It's, honestly, it just feels like it's just a milestone. It's, we don't really set limits for ourselves in training and that. We just try and go in there, just do as best we can and just try and beat the last session. And if that was 2:30, then great. And then, next session, just trying to beat that again. So, but no, it did feel pretty good to join that that 5-man club, I will admit.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So when did you get started? Because I didn't know. So I think the first time I saw you, somebody maybe tagged on Instagram, tagged me in one of your posts or something like that leading up to Worlds. But we hadn't talked or met. I think even at Worlds, we just hit against each other like once or twice.
I think we hit, one or two sets together. And apart from, I don't think we bumped into each other at Worlds.
Yeah.
But it's, vlog started, what was it? I think 10 months ago now, which is, it's actually flown by. Even though it's flown by, it feels like I've been in the sport for years now, which is a weird thing in itself. So got started back in early March of last year after doing amateur golf here in Australia. Just finished my first pro event here as well, and then I was like, golf isn't really going anywhere, and people have always been saying, why don't you go give long drive a go? Like, because it was always kind of long on course. Club speed was kind of up there as well, and then I was like, we'll do it. We'll just jump straight in and signed up as like a pro and all that, and started doing speed training sessions, and everything after that was just to become the best long driver I could be. So it's been a fun. It's been a good 10 months, and excited to keep going with it.
How fast were you, like right when you started? I'm sure the equipment has changed a lot. So it's hard to when you're just getting started. It's really hard to say, because if you're hitting a 45 inch driver with like a 8 or 9 degree head, that's going to be totally different than something else, at least for apples to apples comparison. But like where approximately did you start?
My first speed session, I actually had to look at it the other day. My max club speed was 148.3, I think it was, and ball speed was 215.5. But that was, I did have I was using the Callaway head at the time, because I actually started using that on course playing golf just to try so just try and get the spin down and just better ball flights in general. And then I ordered this 48 degree shaft, long drive shaft, which ended up being like a 4X. So I always thought like the stiffer the better for long drive, because swing it quicker. And learned pretty quick that's definitely not the go. That's definitely doesn't work. And from that, after you like figure out how to hit it and actually hit it in the air and that, it maybe 2 to 4 mile an hour speed difference from the 46, and that's pretty much it, to be honest.
So what were you doing before coming in? Because it's obviously very unusual to come into the sport and have 215 right away. What, like, you're a big athletic guy, so what's your background there that helped you to come in so fast? So
growing up, I played baseball for about 9-10 years. And with that, there was just normal golf as well from age 10 to last year pretty much. So about 11 years of that as well. And added in gym stuff as well. And it's not a bad backbone to have getting into long drive.
Yeah,
like
sure.
a lot of baseball players seem to go into it pretty well, which is whether that's just the power output or the hand-eye coordination. Some definitely helps for sure.
What position did you play?
I was pitcher, actually.
Okay. So that's the number one. Like that's what that's the most common thing for a baseball. I mean, Justin James, I don't know if Kyle, I think Kyle might have played some baseball, but yeah, I mean, there are a ton of Tim Burke, ton of pitchers in the sport. And I think it's a few things. Like the hand-eye coordination is big. That, will of course help you, because you could swing 160 miles an hour, and if you can't hit the center of the club, you're not going to get good ball speed, and then you're also, of course, not going to get good ball flight.
Yeah.
And that power output, just maximum like rotational, whatever torque. But I think the really huge thing is the release of the right hand, because you guys you train that so effectively to use your whole body, get a huge wind up, go down and at the last minute release for that maximum speed.
Yeah.
And that's where it all comes from. I mean, rotation is important, ground force, it's all important, but it all has to kind of culminate in that release.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you wind up the elastic band, and then that right arm at the last second is like, just like that.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, like all just the hip movements from actually a drill I'm doing at the moment is that you might have seen on Instagram, that baseball sort of drill with the swingman sort of drill, where that left leg swings back, and that's that really resonated well with me just from pitching. Actually, it feels like the same sort of pitching movement in the right hip, and then from that the speeds jumped up. So that's another part where I feel like pitching and baseball really can help out.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if I can pull that up now. So for people listening, I'm going to try to share Seb's Instagram here. Hopefully I can do that. All right. Can you see that window?
Yep. There we go.
Okay. Hopefully everybody else can too. So let's go. I think this is the post, right?
The 2:30 post. Yeah. Start off with that one. Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. So that's like very much like the Jeremy Nowak, what he does.
Yeah. That was that's actually the drill we were doing. And yeah.
So how does that feel for you? Because normally you have like a pretty quick tempo to your swing, but with this, you have to slow it down.
It definitely does feel a lot slower going back. It's almost like when the left leg like maxes out going right, the hips start falling, and it's trying to feel like the left leg staying there as you fall, and then you're trying to create like the panic sort of feel. So the last second, that left leg comes back, snaps on the ground, pushes up and out of the way, and just snaps through. And but it does feel a lot slower than normal one.
So you're kind of feeling like your back is staying to the target as you're shifting forward.
As you're falling,
And then that lead leg just really touches down at the last moment.
The last sort of second, just to create that sort of reaction rather than actually trying to find the ground and really push in. We found almost that panic state where if you don't push down the last second, you're going to fall over. we found that works. That's worked the best so far.
Nice. What about the release of the right hand? Is that something, again, where it's like you just make it so you have to do that? Or is that something you actually feel consciously?
It's not something like trying to actually actively do. It's sort of just happening. The release does feel different though. It feels more after the ball instead of like, honestly, I couldn't tell you where it feels like normal, like doing it normal. It's you're just swinging and, but something definitely does feel different through and after the ball. So it's a good sort of feeling to have though.
What about here, where there was one post I was just looking at, I forget which angle it was. It might've been this one down the line. No. It was this. All right. So I think hopefully I can pause it here. All right. So right there, can you see the top of your backswing? Excuse me for a second. I want to tell you real quick about my favorite training aid and a sponsor of the podcast, the Lag Shot. It's designed with what they call lag flex technology that'll help you to create and maintain more lag in your swing, which will give you better consistency and more speed, which we all want, right? But my favorite part is that you can go out and actually hit balls with it. It's a real club. They make a driver, a 7-iron, and a wedge. So you can incorporate it into your practice sessions to ingrain the better technique that it's teaching you. Once you try it, you'll see why I love it. Go to lagshotgolf.com/crush or click the link in the description below to get 15% off lagshotgolf.com/crush.
Yeah.
Where are you looking?
Honestly, I could not. As soon as I take the club away, it's just emptiness. There is nothing there at all.
Nothing in your mind or in your sight or both?
Both really.
Okay.
Yeah, everything just goes blank pretty much. Like I couldn't tell you anything after the takeaway really, which is, it's almost like you passed out and then you like, once you hit the ball, you're like, oh, okay, the ball's flying. And
I think that's a great way to be.
It.
I've had the pleasure of talking with a lot of people on the podcast who have different approaches. And I think that's a really good way to go. And I would like to be more like that. I have a hard time though, just like completely shutting off.
Letting go and just trusting it and just, I feel like having too much, just trying to get rid of all that, like actively trying to get into positions. And if you can just trust it, I feel like the speed just jumps up by itself because your body just does what it's meant to do and gets out of the way and all that. So
for sure, it does. And I think for some people, including myself, it takes like a competition usually to do that. Where if I'm out practicing just by myself, it's hard to completely shut the brain off, which is one of the, I think if you were looking at it on the positive side, I think it's nice to go out and when you're just hitting balls for hours or whatever, you can get so deep in your own head. It's a kind of meditation really, but it's very different than when you're trying to just maximize speed, maximize your output. I would rather have that competition with somebody where my brain has to shut off so I can just be the athlete.
You can just be in the moment and just, just swing and just get it as far out there as you can. Yeah. But it's weird, like coming out of a competition, practice always feels like in that competition state for the next few weeks. Well, that's what I found anyway. It's, you're just being real in the moment, not thinking too much. And you can just let it go real easy. Mm-hmm. So that's something I noticed anyway.
All right. I think you put this in slow-mo. So let me let this play again and see. All right. So I just want to show people a couple things that kind of stand out to me. Obviously you're working up, working back, practically 90 degrees of hip turn. And then I'll pause it again there. Just because it's so, one of the things that's really different here when you look at the sort of the start of your transition down is that you're basically looking away from the target, which I think helps you to then have a huge shoulder turn.
Rotation, yeah.
And probably then it kind of accentuates that feeling of falling toward the target. So in this swing, you're not doing that step drill, but let's let it play a little bit further. And you do kind of move that lead foot still coming down a little bit.
Yeah, this swing, this was the first actual session where I started to feel like I could get that sort of baseball feel while both feet were on the ground. Obviously not perfect and not the same as what that drill actually does, but starting to get there anyway.
There was one, I don't know which post it was on now, but somebody was like, I hit it 320 and I'm an 8 handicap.
Yeah,
and you were like, oh, hit it 320 and an 8. I remember when I started too.
Yeah, I mean, if people are going to chirp up a bit on the comment section, I mean, they got to expect to have a bit back.
Oh, for sure.
Got to keep it fair.
I feel like it's so old for people to chime in on long drive, like, "Oh, how's your short game?" And
come on, that's like OB left, OB right. Like, okay, champ.
Yeah, you can come up with something better than that. Yeah. There's plenty of things to jab at long drivers, but you can't really make fun of our short games when our goal is to go out there and hit it, 230 miles an hour, and hit it farther than everybody else. So
exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, like, what's better, bragging rights or it depends who you ask, really. But like, bragging rights are a good score.
Yeah, it does depend. But I think if you were to ask any pro on PGA Tour, Live, anything like that, and say, hey, if you could have the distance of a long driver, but keep the rest of your skills, like keep yourself who you are, but then add, all of this crazy distance, of course everybody would want to, because the potential that you're unleashing by doing that changes your game, as we've seen with Bryson, and that's the way the game is going.
Exactly. It's just trending in that sort of speed and distance direction, and who knows how far that's going to eventually get to. So But yeah, definitely moving that sort of direction.
So hold on, my phone's chirping. So who are you? You know, like what are you working on now, and what are kind of the staples of your swing as you've been gaining this, what seems to be a really significant amount of speed in the last several months?
Yeah, so at the moment it's sort of that like getting back off the ball and then recentering, which is pretty much that baseball drill, what that does. Yeah, been working hard on that with Craig Parker, and yeah, it's it's just really started to pay dividends as well, and the speed's jumped up just from doing that. And but yeah, I'd say that sort of move is the probably the main part to the swing. And yeah, apart from that, just you pushing your speeds and your speed sessions and mechanic days, going back to that and just switching between the two.
Mm-hmm. How good of an amateur golfer were you, or are you still?
I was a +4
Wow.
back home in Sydney, so we used to play okay. Didn't have any like real good finishes in the like amateur events here in Oz. Then there was one minor club championship at the home club, which got a start in a pro event there later that year. So did one pro event. Didn't play great. But yeah, that's really my golfing career, really. +4, and then a lot of missed cuts and amateur events, and which led to long drive pretty quick.
Yeah. What I imagine for you is probably a similar story to a lot of other long drivers like myself who come from a golf background, where it's quite a challenge to find the right equipment when you're just kind of picking up higher level play. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the middle of a tournament and seen a cracked face in a driver, or the seam on top of it blown out.
Yeah, just pops
You're like, well, what's going on? What do I do now?
It's like, yeah, what can you do? Really, just hit 4-iron everywhere, and
Yeah.
so. But yeah, it's just one of those. Like, yeah, the clubs at the moment the heads just aren't really made for those sort of speeds. So yeah, it definitely does become a challenge, which is probably the main reason I did go to the long drive head for normal golf, just that bit stronger as well. And yeah, because I had the one I was using before, I must have sent that head back 8 times just from a crack or a pop or whatever. And yeah, you get over that pretty quick, not having a driver for a week or two. And yeah.
Yeah, and it presents a whole challenge then if you're trying to gap your clubs properly. So even if Callaway made a bunch of different iterations of a few heads 2 years ago, I guess, and a couple of them were like really fortified. They were very strong, thick faced, and they were great because you could hit it at speed a lot and it's not going to break. But because it's so thick, the ball is going to be slower. It's maybe not going to feel quite as good. But for my purposes, like if I'm going to go out on the course, I'll still have plenty of speed. I'll still hit it really far. And I can kind of count that the head is not going to break. So let's say I get a driver that works, and let's say I've got irons that work. Well, what do I do in between? Because I'd like something else off the tee. I don't need to just go straight to a 2-iron or a 3-iron. But then you run into the same problems because nobody's designing a 3-wood or a hybrid for 200 miles an hour ball speed.
Especially the 3-woods and hybrids, they were, they're a big culprit of just breaking like straight away, which is, and like, yeah, what do you do? Did you go like 2-iron route or 1-iron route, or do you just
I ended up
up
pretty much with a strong 3-iron. It still goes far, and like it's still whatever, like an average drive maybe, I guess. But I just feel like there's a lot left on the table. So then I had a really old hybrid that I had like since my high school days that somehow was built in a really durable way, and that thing has not broken yet, I don't think. It might be I'm sure the face is flat, but it hasn't cracked at least. So I still don't have like what I would call an ideal setup. There, like the distance from my driver down to my next club, which is currently a 3-iron, is just way too big of a gap.
Oh yeah, it'd be like, it must be close to 100 yards, wouldn't it? If you're in your driver, like 350, 340. And then, there's a big gap in between that. Yeah,
depending on the conditions and the wind and stuff, it's a ridiculous gap. And especially, I thought it was fascinating when Bryson put out his video about how he gaps his clubs. And he has it kind of the opposite of a traditional approach, where I always heard growing up, kind of along the same lines of you, with like a stiffer shaft. Okay, you hit it far, go with a stiffer, heavier shaft. People were also saying go with a lot of wedges, go like with like 4 or 5 wedges, and that's where you should put a lot of your clubs. And Bryson seemed to do it very differently, where he would have a lot of clubs for tighter gaps off the tee, so that he could go as far as he can and still put a normal swing on that club, without running into the exact issue
problems
we're talking about.
Exactly, without running into those gapping issues and all that, and still being able to control it as well.
Mm-hmm. And then when I had Kyle on, I think it was maybe right after the episode, we were just chatting, and part of it, like you said, you were in one pro event, you did a bunch of amateur stuff, and then one pro. It's so hard to just have that one time, that one event where you're doing it, because your body's not used to it, your mind's not used to it. It's not that you're not a really good golfer, I'm sure, but it's just different. And so you're not really going out there to perform in the same way as if you were to do it every week.
Exactly.
And once you get in that rhythm, then you can really kind of let yourself relax and let your talents shine. Of course, some people will, go out and have their best day on that one day, but I don't know.
Far and few between, for sure. Yeah. It's just getting used to that different sort of environment, and just all the things that go along with competing at that sort of level is, would definitely take a while to get used to. Like, you do hope that you are that sort of player who just goes on and just like breaks through it. But there's far and few between for that one.
Yeah, for sure. It's got its own challenges. But so what are you doing now? I remember seeing you videos of you working out. You lift a lot. You're strong. What is your training like in the off season, preparing for next year?
Yeah, so I've actually moved up to the Gold Coast with another long drive athlete, Matt Stubbs, and we've been treating long drive as a full-time job pretty much up here. So we've been doing the training session with Craig for long drive 3 to 4 times a week. Going through the different drills, swing mechanics, speed stuff, and then working with Hayden for gym as well. And Bradley Charles Stubbs, the mental side of things, and all those sort of factors, and including like recovery as well, nutrition, just like everything's just been ramped up to a different sort of level. And I'd say that, and being around these sort of guys who have been has been the main reason my speed's jumped and reached sort of new levels. So it's exciting.
It is exciting. And I think that what you're saying, that environment, the people you're around pushing you, that's huge. And it's something that's hard to find in golf, and to a large extent long drive as well.
It is, yeah.
Because it's such an individual sport.
It is, yeah. Yeah. So been very lucky finding a good team to be around, and just pushing each other every session has been a huge, huge factor, because like someone's chasing the other and the other one doesn't want them to catch up. And that's sort of like, you have to get better. Otherwise, you don't want someone to overtake you. But that's sort of environment I feel like it's been a huge, huge factor into how we've jumped.
Who's Hayden? You mentioned him, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so Hayden lives up here in the Gold Coast as well, and he does Hayden Gentrin, and he does all like the gym stuff, all the so he's just been writing up our programs, and just having an actual structure and things that specifically we needed to work on has been a game changer for sure.
So what does that look like right now for you?
At the moment, there's a lot more like hip stuff, some plyo, of course. Like before all that, I was just doing squat, bench, deadlift, and then just random hypertrophy stuff in between. A lot of dumbbell or shoulder raises, lateral raises, and all that, which make you look good for sure. But in terms of performance, probably not the greatest. So it's really in tune with performing and becoming the best long driver we can be.
Do you do any more specific stuff like medicine ball throws, or do you get kind of your more sport specific speed work by actually hitting?
Yeah, the speed work is just by hidden balls and speed training. Yeah, the
Okay.
gym stuff's just to complement that and just get our bodies stronger where we can produce those
Hmm.
like those sort of speeds and yeah, just keep getting quicker and quicker.
Yeah. Nice. What about the volume when you hit? What does a normal session look like in terms of number of balls?
At the moment, I'd say we're hitting anywhere from 100 to 120 balls each a session. Um, yeah, that's actually that seems to be the sweet spot as well. Doing that, yeah, 3 to 4 times a week, you can have your days off in between and recover properly and get the CNS somewhat recovered for the next one.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and a big thing is having like just technical weeks, and then you test that out every few weeks or whatever. And yeah, not every session just max out speed at the moment, anyway. So
Hmm.
yeah,
So, because of your tournament background, do you have a preferred shot shape or a go-to if you're kind of under pressure?
now it's a draw.
Hmm.
Draw is the go-to now. Um, honestly, I don't think I could hit a fade if I tried. Just with what we've been, just with what we've been working on, and yeah, draw is definitely the pattern I've been leading towards at the moment.
Hmm. So I think anytime you get a long driver who's got a jump in speed or reaches certain milestone or whatever, then everybody's like, okay, it's really fast, but how is his accuracy going to be in competition? And I think for someone like you coming from a tournament golf background, you've probably got a big leg up there. But what it sounds like you already do a combination, like you just said, of speed days, of more accuracy days, or shot shaping, or whatever it is. What's your approach on that?
Yeah, so I feel like for the speed stuff, obviously we just hit into a net just because we don't. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
where the ball is going, and yeah. Apart from that, like the shot shape and that, hidden balls, just hitting them away. The range is like 275, 280. So yeah, we get a bucket of balls that we don't mind losing, and yeah, just hit those away with a certain shot shape, and just really seeing where it's going. And if there's a tendency like too far left or too far right or whatever, we can come back, have a look at the numbers, and then yeah, make an adjustment for the next session, and yeah, just see where it's like trending and what the tendencies are in general, and yeah, because I feel like actually seeing the ball flight is huge in terms of getting ready for competition and just knowing what to really expect. Like
Mm-hmm.
going up on the grid, just hitting into a net, and then seeing your ball flight for the first time 20 minutes before warming up is like, oh, is this going to be all day, or is this like a one off, or is this yeah, just knowing what shot shape you're going to hit, how high, how low, whatever is yeah, I feel very important.
Yeah, you got to have that mixture of practice. I've had a few times where I spend like a couple days, maybe because of the weather or the season, if I'm living somewhere that's really seasonal, and you're just hitting into a net, and you get used to, oh, that feels great, the speed is high, and then you go outside and you're like, ooh, got to
Yeah,
make a couple changes.
exactly. The speed's always up, and then you go outside for the first time, and it's like speed just drops off because you're trying to actually hit the ball in play. And
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, the more you do it, it's like you get used to it, and yeah, the speeds just level out.
it seems like I've heard some great hitters say that they will just make the same swing. Like they'll just get up and they'll just try to kind of be on autopilot. Like they're just doing what they've done in practice and they're repeating the same process and not really changing.
Like too much.
They're not really changing too much based on what they see, even if they're in the middle of a set. Like if they miss left, they'll just kind of try to make the right swing because they know that that one is not going to miss left. Other people will play it a little bit more kind of
Like
on the fly and
reactionary
like,
to yeah.
yes, yeah. What do you do?
Ooh, honestly, I'd say I just try and play that same shot shape because at the end of you have six goes to eventually you'll hit one where it is going to do what it's meant to do. I feel like just changing it up on the go is just from like a consistency standpoint and like knowing what it's going to do, how far it's going to go is feel like it's just too hard to time up, and just stick with what you know and stick with what you know how to do, and yeah, just trust that it will eventually come, and yeah, produce that sort of shot.
Yeah, it's usually easier said than done, though.
It is
because you step up there and
it is,
and you just feel, because like after you hit a ton of golf balls, you have a really good feeling of like, oh, if I had just like a degree, if that had just been a degree this way or that way,
it would have been good in play. Yeah,
and it's so tempting then to think, okay, on the next shot, I just want to have that 1 degree the other way. But that's not a good way to do it. Like, that's not how you practice either. And I think that's a good way to think about it. If you think whatever your practice sessions are, because those a lot of times will turn out to be your best, and they'll reveal your tendencies and your best tendencies. If you can then carry that over to your set and just kind of imagine like, all right, now I'm on the range. I know what my swing feels like. I know what my ideal ball flight does, and boom, execute that.
Exactly. It's like playing how you practice or competing how you practice. And yeah, 100 couldn't agree more with that.
Does it feel weird? Because I feel like from my perspective, I guess I've been in the sport for whatever, so my first Worlds was in 2015, but I didn't do any of the tour events until
straight to Worlds. Yeah.
What's that?
Straight to Worlds.
Yeah, straight into Worlds.
Nice.
So because 2015 was kind of weird because it was the Long Drive was changing ownership at the time, and they basically turned it all into one big last chance qualifier. And so I went into that. That was my first. I didn't know anything about Long Drive, other than like I saw it on TV a couple times growing up. But then going into the 2015 Worlds, 1 month before it, I had never hit a long drive club. I had never practiced for long drive or anything. And a good friend of mine in Illinois gave me a couple clubs to use, and I ended up doing pretty well, better than I expected. I've told it on here before in a couple episodes, but my very first shot, I had no idea how far I was going to be compared to these other people. My very first shot was 419 yards.
Oh, wow.
And then my second one was 420, and that won the set. And I was like, okay, I like this sport. This is good.
Drive. Yeah, this is a great sport.
Yeah, great sport. But I didn't get into any of the tour events until 2017. I think it was the end of 2017. And that was largely because of how you had to sign up. You couldn't get in if you didn't have ranking points and blah, blah, blah. But
yeah.
So how many events, I brought that up because I was wondering from your perspective, since you're so new, like how many times have you actually competed on a grid, like against, like to get those competitive juices flowing?
Worlds was our first grid event, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the first time not actually just being on TrackMan and seeing TrackMan numbers for an event and all that. So it was it was a bit of an adjustment actually seeing the ball flight and seeing what it does in person. But yeah, so Worlds would have been the first and only one so far. So yeah.
Nice. That's cool. It's do you like it better? I mean, I guess you don't have a choice, but do you like hitting into a net? Do you like that for a competition or actually seeing it?
Nah, seeing the ball fly on a grid. Yeah, grids are the only real events in my eyes.
Yeah, I think if you don't have that option, it's still nice to have a competition, and certainly for qualifying, I think that's a really good route.
Get the juices flowing, and that competitive sort of, the competitive sort of atmosphere amongst players is good. And yeah, hopefully it leads to something down the line. And yeah.
Yeah. So what's your plan then for this year?
Yeah. So,
well, first of all, I talked with you a few days ago, and I think next week, so this will be the 11th. The 11th for me, I think the 12th for you that this comes out. And I think the following week, then there are going to be some schedule announcements. So then I guess you could give me a better answer after that. But yeah, what are your tentative plans for this year?
Everything is based on the schedule, but either way, myself and Matt, we're going to be coming over for each event this year for this season.
Nice.
And yeah, it's just going from there. But yeah, it is when we do come over, it's all dependent on when the first event is, scheduling, all that, how many weeks in between event 1, 2, etc., and sort of qualifying and all that. So, but yeah, we do plan on competing in every event next season.
That's cool.
Which is exciting.
I'm sure that by the time you get to next Worlds, your perspective will be totally different than what it is now.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I asked about the number of events in part because I think it's funny that you've had as much experience in long drive as you've had while it's still being a really relatively small amount of experience.
Yeah.
And to accomplish some of the things, the 230 miles an hour, that's crazy. And you've only hit on a real grid once. It's, it's kind of a funny way to go about it.
It is. Yeah. It's a weird sort of, it's different. It's a different way to how most would probably do it. But yeah, we hopefully, we're sure next season competing in events and all that, it'll, just getting that experience will just keep building up and just take that into each new event and learn new things and just put that into action and
I wonder how it will pan out for you on the mental side. I always like to ask people a little bit more in depth about their mental approach. And I'm wondering for you, how it'll be different or how it has been different when you're hitting into a net, when you're just hitting against your buddies, and then when you go into hitting on the grid and like the difference in approaches. Do you get more aggressive? Do you get less aggressive, more focused, more of like just shutting your mind off and going blank? Is there anything that kind of stood out to you from Worlds?
Oh, from Worlds, I'd say at Worlds it was more just a sort of focus with that, obviously that really hot, that adrenaline rush that you do get from stepping on the grid, especially the first grid event in front of all these sort of players and spectators. Now I'd say it's just through training. Like when we train, it does get pretty intense. Like obviously, when you push each other and you're trying to beat the other person, it does get a little extreme at times, which is good for competition practice. But just through that, I'd say it's almost you're just riding that adrenaline rush, but you're in that sort of flow state. I found when I start trying to get angry, I start tensing up, hands get tight, and it's for some reason speeds just aren't the same. Whereas if I'm just sort of in that flow state, just riding that adrenaline rush, it's almost like you're loose. But if that makes sense, that's the best way I can sort of describe it. You're loose, but the adrenaline rush is pumping you through it. And for me, that's working best so far. So we'll try and take that into event one and then see if that works. If not, make some adjustments from there and just see how it goes.
That's one thing that I find so weird, and I've talked about it before on here again, but like when you go and you lift, if you're doing a heavy deadlift, a heavy whatever, you know how to brace your core and get like really tight and get everything ready for that lift. And it's almost the opposite feeling then that you need to have, like you're saying, to be loose and to really let your body be that kind of spring and whip through.
Exactly. It's like, it's a weird feeling. Like you'd think the angrier you get, the harder you swing at it, the quicker you'll be. But it's really not. It's like we're always trying to say swing faster, not harder. That's always a thing we try and go back to. It really does seem to be true. Like the harder you try and swing it, the slower it tends to be, which is just weird, a weird sort of, just does not make sense.
And it's very weird as well because like right when you get started in long drive, or if you're out and you're a tournament golfer and you're like, okay, I'm going to hit this one a little bit further. I think for a limited period of time and up to like a limited level of intensity, swinging harder does work and it will give you a little more distance. But then once you're already doing long drive and you're already very fast, then it's almost like, okay, you need to like maybe shift gears or shift your focus and you're no longer trying to go harder than exactly you're dropping the tension so that your body can act like that whip. But then if you had just spent the last couple months like training, okay, a little harder, and then you need to be like, oh wait, a little easier, a little looser, a little soft. Like it's just so bizarre.
It's like, and it's one of those things that you just discover like in just each session or a few sessions, and you're like, okay, speed jumped up a bit, feeling a bit loose from the hands, or feeling this chippy sort of feel, speeds jumped up, or tightening up, the speeds dropped, and just always learning different sort of tricks and feels that may or may not work, and and it's just about putting it in play in competition and yeah, just trusting it.
It seems like you're coming into the sport at a cool time for a few reasons, but in part because of there's just a lot more information about long drive out there now, where I think before, you might see a long driver on TV once a year, you might see an interview or whatever, or a couple social media posts. But now, like, hopefully this podcast is a great outlet for people to learn more about long drive. And there's just a lot more social media where people are talking about what they're feeling, what they're doing. And it allows people then, like someone like you, who's been in the sport not a long time, but you have like kind of that collective base of knowledge to come in and help you. And you're instantly then leveled up instead of working for like a couple of years, be like, oh, maybe I'll try this, or maybe that's not good or is good. Now you can just jump up.
Exactly. Like all the information that's available now, you can sort of just, excuse me, you can sort of just like pick and choose and pick people's brains, like just straight away, because the information's there, like on social media, online and all that. And yeah, it does make it a lot easier to talk to guys as well and seeing what they're doing, how they're training, and then trying that stuff, see if it works for you, and yeah, just adding it onto what you do and all that. And yeah, it's just finding out. I feel like just gathering a lot of different information, picking the pieces that work for you, combine it into that one, and yeah, is really beneficial.
Mm-hmm. How do you decide for yourself, like what's your kind of unique way of doing it versus trying and saying like, oh, this is what Martin does, or this is what Josh does, and maybe have it work for you? It's
in terms of swing mechanics, I wouldn't say I'm looking at much in that sort of area. It's more things they do, like maybe mentally, if they say something like that, or like practice-wise, how many balls they hit or whatever. Because just mechanics-wise, people do things great, like in their own thing. Whether or not someone else can actually do what they do is another. Right. So like, yeah, obviously, like when you are working on a swing change or something, a mechanic, you can pick someone up and see how they do it, because they do really good that movement. And then trying to implement some techniques to try and do that. But in general, it's more just the mental side, training, and yeah, that sort of thing, side of things.
When you say mental side there, are you talking about feelings in the swing?
Yeah, like feelings, maybe how they deal with competition or how they structure their practice, like staying engaged and all that, like focused, keep it competitive. Yeah, just sort of things like that, really.
Mm-hmm. I've asked a bunch of people, and I like hearing the different answers. So for you, if you were in a scenario where you just hit a good ball and somebody hit it a couple yards past you, or if you're having a speed session and you went 229 and you're trying to get 230, what do you consciously think about to go a little bit more, a little bit faster, a little further?
Oh, especially with that speed one, trying to get that little bit quicker. I've found trying to feel that exact same swing, just a little quicker through the ball. It's even though like timing that and actually doing that almost impossible at that sort of speed, but having that feeling of doing that is yeah, I don't know why that's worked so well for me, but it's feeling that exact same swing from before, just a little quicker through the ball. Yeah, more times than not, speed does jump up a little bit, which is, yeah, just a feeling that I have that works for me. And yeah, and that's it, really.
So if you're feeling faster through the ball, does it feel slower elsewhere in the swing?
It'd feel a little bit slower if anywhere going back on the takeaway. Even though the tempo could be the exact same. Yeah, just the feeling of it does. Yeah, it's a weird thing to explain. Like all these different feelings, what you perceive in your own head of what you're actually doing, and then trying to put that into words, and is a challenge on its own. But
so the way I understand it, you of course have different parts of your brain, and the part that really understands the feelings, like you subconsciously know of, like, okay, that's a little faster, or a draw, or higher, or whatever, is actually a very different part of the brain that processes speech and creates words. So the part of your brain might have like a difficulty communicating. So whatever you feel, sometimes it's not really productive to then convert it into words because they actually are different.
Like different parts of the.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But I still want to know because
sense. Yeah, like different feelings like that you could maybe implement yourself, and if it works for you, great. If not, it's just trying to figure out another feel that does something similar.
Yeah, and you can have two people that you tell to have the exact same feeling, or they tell you they have the exact same feeling, but it's totally different in terms of how it like manifests itself or is represented.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a weird game, but
it is
a lot of fun too.
All the stuff in your head, and it's a lot of very individualized.
Yeah, one of the things it's still on the mental note, when you're there in competition and you have the time in between shots, that's good and bad time, I guess. But on the mental side, it's like, okay, you have whatever 20 seconds in between. What are you thinking then? Because that's downtime essentially that in other sports, like in a combat sport, if we were fighting or if I were throwing you a pass or like I'm about to hit a baseball or something, I don't have that maybe 10 or 15 seconds of just like thoughts. So how do you handle that?
It's probably just trying to get amped up, like just get the heart rate going and try and get that adrenaline back up to a level where it's like optimal for speed and just going quick. Like see a few people doing like those just standing like those little jumps just to get the heart rate going as well. And just really like trying to pump yourself up mentally, like let's go, let's do this and all that. I'd say that's what I lean towards, just for that reason. And then, obviously trying to stay relaxed and loose as well while doing that, not tense up too much.
Yeah.
And then,
which again, that's, you're kind of asking for both extremes there to be like a really fight or flight kind of response, but also be relaxed and allow your body to
allow it to do what it's meant to do and what it knows, what it should be at, what it should do as well. Is it's just practice on its own, really.
It is. Let's talk a little bit about like diet and nutrition and stuff like that. Because I'm very interested by it. I've tried a bunch of different stuff, and I know that for some people it makes a huge difference. So what have you done now, and what's working for you?
Yeah, so nutrition. Before moving up here to the Gold Coast, my nutrition wise was probably one of the worst ever. Like it was, just the food choices I'd eat, what I would eat, how much I'd eat as well was just not good. But since moving up here, we've been focusing on. I've been trying to follow a bit more of the vertical diet in a way, just some of the foods on that. A lot of beef, rice, a lot more like bit more greens like spinach. Not a lot of the other stuff like broccoli and all that. Can't really do that yet, but we'll get there eventually. Just trying to eat cleaner in general. Obviously still having that balance between having like your lollies and all that, chocolate, but trying to space it out where it's maybe before training just to carb up, like get those quick carbs in instead of just sitting on the couch, just eating them, whatever. It's a lot more deliberate eating and timing it out to try and perform the best for training and recovery and all that as well. And just a lot more performance based. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can be, depending on like what, hopefully anyone listening is eating a pretty clean diet, but if you are in a pretty strict lifestyle, a lot of hitting, a lot of working out, stuff like that, you'll find that if you don't have any carbs going into a workout or a hitting session, it can be pretty tough. So experimenting with that, within moderation is a great route.
Great route. Exactly. Just having that carbs, just get that energy source to maximize your potential in training and just fuel the muscle, fuel the body so you can have the best session you possibly can and just perform your best.
For a while I would take it was some kind of a dextrose. It was like a specialized dextrin maybe like I forget what they're called, highly branched cyclic dextrins or something like that, and supposedly like really quick into your bloodstream.
Okay.
But I found that it was like messing up my blood sugar levels. So I would take it, and then I would get like shaky and like
You feel that drop
anxious.
off a bit later. It's like,
Yeah, I guess it was a drop. I guess it was a drop and my blood sugar was going real low, but it was weird. And if I could like find right on that edge where like, I guess it's still a high blood sugar, but right before it goes, then I'm super fast or super strong right there if I'm lifting. But then I don't feel so good after. So I haven't been doing that in a couple of years.
For sure. So. But yeah, again, it's just like experimenting and seeing like what does work best for you, like when to take it, when not to take it or whatever. Again, it's just so individualized and like, cause your body's going to process in different ways and just figuring out what works the best for you. And
yeah. I used to do vertical diet or very, very similar to vertical diet for quite a long time, in part just because I like the way that food tastes, but then also
it does taste good. That's a big plus.
Yeah. But you can make a good argument that it's really good for you as well.
Exactly.
But then for the last few months, I actually have been on like a sourdough kick. So I have a sourdough starter. I make sourdough bread and stuff like that. But every night, this is for a couple months. I don't know when I started, but every single night I would make a sourdough pizza. And so I would just basically eat meat and fruit during the day. And then at night make this big pizza with sourdough. And I feel like it was good. I mean, it was delicious and I don't think I've had any negative effects from it. So.
Perfect. I mean, quite a bit of carbs now as well. So carb load for the next day, next session, get your protein and just a tasty meal to finish the day pretty well. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. So, all right, we're looking into 2023 here. What do you do? Like you said, you're treating it like a sport now or like a professional undertaking. What do you do when you're not hitting or working out to kind of let your mind relax?
Oh, for me, the best way to relax is to probably, apart from like doing your recovery sessions, like your sauna, hot tub and all that. If we're not talking about that, probably just chilling, just sitting down, just relaxing, like maybe watching some YouTube, some podcasts and all that. Just being real mellow, just at home, chill with some friends or whatever. I found that for some reason that just mentally that just relaxes me and helps just reset the mind for like the next sort of day. I'm working casually as well up here. So there's that as well, which is, I guess it's kind of an escape a different sort of break from long drive. But yeah, for being honest, that's one thing I'll try and hopefully one day get away from and just much rather do long drive full time.
Yeah. It's, I know there are a lot of, I guess I don't know if they're exactly on the Gold Coast, but do you have access to different like cold tubs, saunas, stuff like that? Because I know there are a bunch of CrossFit athletes and other high level athletes, I think pretty near you.
Yeah, we're actually very lucky where we are. There's probably 10, 15 minutes away. We've got a recovery center, which has got like your compressions and all that, sauna, hot tub, cold tub. So yeah, with that, do your membership fee or pay your fee, and we can stay in there as long as we want, which is awesome. And we just go through all of that, you come out of it feeling just ready to go for the next day. Just nice, relaxed, and good to go.
I think the cold tubs or any kind of cold water is underrated still. I know I talked with Josh Koch about this and he likes it as well, but there's just something special. It's like, it's more than just the blood flow and the whatever. Maybe it's the mental side. Cause you're like, hey, if I'm about to step into this thing, it is really going to suck. And it's not the kind of thing where it's going to suck for a second. Like it's going to continue to hurt
until you get out. Yeah. The whole time you're in there, it's a punish for sure. But like just after it as well, you just feel more alert, like, more awake, obviously, because it's such a shock to the system. And that's, in terms of cold tub, that's, probably do that once or twice a week only compared to the others, which would try and be every day. Just so, because they're just so it doesn't affect like the muscle growth from workouts, all that straight after. So
Yeah.
if we are going to use it, it's like a day off or a couple of days after the gym or straight after a long drive session or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's, from what I've read, it's not ideal for hypertrophy if you do it right after. It could be fine before, but then you're probably dealing with a kind of a difficulty of getting everything like warmed up and ready for
that session.
Whatever
It's it's just something. Why risk losing potential growth or gains or progress? We just err on the side of caution with that and just time it out.
Yeah, you got to find the right time for it.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it is a fun thing to do, just to man up and get in there and just freeze for a bit. So yeah, it's a fun challenge if nothing else. My brother, there's a community pool in their house, and or in the development of their house, and there's no heater on the pool, and so right now we're in the winter, and I think the water the other day was like 39 degrees or something. Oh wow!
And it's tough. It feels great though. The first time I went in, it's right around, I think it was like 41 that day. And it's that huge shock, but it's a pool. It's rather than just like a cold tub. So you can swim around, you can move, and
try and get some
focus on your breathing.
And walk around a bit. And wow.
That helps.
Still doesn't sound too fun, but whatever works.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different kind of fun, right?
Exactly.
Like all this stuff. It's not necessarily fun to go, deadlift 500-600 pounds until afterwards. And you're like, that was really fun.
But
the
good.
moment in it, like, it hurts. It's not, a good feeling.
Exactly. You just got to do it. Just push through it and just get it done. For
sure. Yeah, man. Well, cool. I'm really excited to have those announcements coming out. Hopefully, I think it's next week on here.
Yeah,
I can't say for sure
for those to come out. So very excited to hear what the schedule's going to be like and what's in store for this season.
Yeah, and I'll be excited to see you out there, hit against you. I know I've got some hard work ahead of me, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm making a lot of progress now. It's been fun. I forget who. I know when I was talking with Eddie Fernandez, we both kind of had the same conclusion studying my swing after Worlds, that I wasn't loading into the lead side effectively. And since doing that, I've picked up a lot of speed, which has been great. And I'm looking forward to putting that into competition.
Just moving a bit more, just efficiently. And it's crazy. Like, you do one thing and to make it a bit more optimal, and you do see those speed jumps, which is always exciting and keeps you.
At some point, it's like, it's weird because you're used to making this like slow progress, chipping. And then sometimes you'll make a little technique change and you'll see a big jump.
Like a big jump as well. Yeah. Which is, always what you want to see. Always what you want to see. Always what you chase.
It's exciting. And it's the kind of thing where if you then go back the next day and you do it and you still have that jump, then it's like, whew, this is the best feeling ever.
Yeah,
I just made a huge jump.
Leveled up and new move.
Leveled up. That's it. Exactly. Well, man, I really appreciate your time. And, I've forgotten what time it is there now. You're there in the Gold Coast. I'm here in Arizona. Big time difference, but I appreciate you, whatever time it is, spending this with me, and look forward to hitting against you in a couple months.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me on. And look forward to teaming up with you on the grid next season.
Absolutely, man. Well, great job on getting to 230. I'm excited to see what else you have coming up. And I'll see you in a while.
I'll see you soon. Thanks for that.
All right. See ya.
Sweet. Cheers.